Hi, Nicholas here. Welcome to the Akousunesis method. Today we're going to look at the Boogie Woogie Bassline with our left hand. And in the second half of the video, we're going to get into a bit more theory, right? And I'm going to show you how we can apply a pattern, right, and give it some context to different key signatures and modes so we know what to do with our right hand. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to introduce you to a concept in the second half called the Modal Pattern Definitions. But for now, we're just going to play the pattern. So let's have a look. So we've got the Boogie Woogie is a 1, 3, 5, 6, -7 pattern. And we're going to apply it to 3 chords or starting notes, right? C, F, G, and F, right? And it sounds like this to give you an idea of how it sounds. Right, and it just loops, right? It loops and just keeps on going. Now, let's have a look here. So we know it's a 1, 3, 5, 6, -7. So let's have a look. The pattern here and the pattern here is exactly the same. But it's just applied over a different key. So the finger numbers all line up, okay? The pattern here and the pattern here is the same, right? Applied over a different key, right? So all the fingers intervals are all the same. The only difference here and here is we use a ring finger here to set us up to get to the F. So I'm going to show you all this. And down here, the only difference from here to here, well, here to here, is we have a slide now with the I. And that, so we're landing on our thumb on 5 rather than our index, right? Which gives us now room to come back to our pinky over here. All right, so let's have a look here. So left hand, pinky on 1, then 3, so we're going up, and then we're coming down, so we're going up first, right? 1, 3, 5, 6, then we swing up, -7, which is a tone down, right? And then we're coming back down to the 6, 5, 3. Now we're on the 1 down here, right? Because we're not just going to stay looping here. We're coming down to the 1. Then we're just rising up to M3, I5, T6, up here to the I-7. Now back down again to the T6. Now we're putting our ring on 5. Because that now, if you look at the hand, it sets you up for your pinky on F, right? So that's one thing to remember there. That's one thing there. And then with 1, 3, 5, 6, same pattern as up here. 1, 3, 5, 6. Right? We do the same. And then here we can easily bring our little pinky up to the G here. And then we can just easily move our pinky over to slide it to the left, right? There's not much of a stretch there. Now, when we're here, this is where we do the slide down. So we're on the index here on the -7. We slide down to the 6, thumb on the 5. Now we can reach back. Right? Ring. So it's that bit there you've got to remember, right? So when you're here, index now is a slide. So anything that's different, right, that you've just been used to. So you've been used to, so let's start here, right? So you're used to playing it like this right now. You're used to playing it like this, right? And you see how we're coming back with our index on the 6, on the 5, right here. Index on 5, thumb on 6, index, right? Like that. Now, if you're learning this for the first time, like you're pretty new to piano and you're just trying to get the movements going, it's always good just to start adding one at a time, right? Because a lot of the times we do want to break up. We learn it with muscle memory and that's fine. But we also want to break that muscle memory up, okay? So we want to just do a few different things, but to stick to the notes, you know, just do different things. All right, but all right, so there's the pattern. Now, because we've remembered that with our index coming back, we've got to remember now that when we're coming back, we're not going to put our index, we're going to put our ring now, right? So that now we're here, right? So now our F lines up, our pinky lines up with the F, and then this is the same finger, 3, 5, thumb on 6, index up, -7, thumb on 6. So the index is back again on 5, right? And then we're coming down to the G, right? Index on 5 there. G, 5, 6, thumb on 6, index on -7. There's a tone down from the high G. Right? So it just goes do 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 do. Now here, so when we're on F, right? 1, 3, 5, 6, index on -7, slide down, so it's a slide, index on 6, then thumb on 5. Now we've got room to stretch. All right. So that's how we play the boogie woogie with the left hand. And I'm playing it up here because down here it's out of the, you know, you'd normally. And then once you know it, then you can start experimenting and putting rhythm into it, okay? And then later on, we're going to learn how to do things with the right hand. But now we're going to look at some theory, okay, which will give you context of this pattern. We're putting it in context of a key signature and modes, and which will allow you to do things with your right hand. So I've created this concept called Modal Pattern Definitions, okay? And they look like this. And I'm going to explain this, all right? Now, they're very powerful because they describe a pattern and they give you a lot of information. They give you, firstly, like, well, let's take this as an example. So rather than trying to explain this, let's go step by step. So we'll come to this point so you understand. So what do we start with? We start with a simple pattern. All right. Now it's quite easy to remember. We have just a pattern of numbers, right? And once we know how to work out intervals, okay, we can apply that pattern starting on any note, any of the 12 notes, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean. Excuse me, one sec. I'm just going to blow my nose. I'll cut this out. All right. Sorry about that. So it doesn't necessarily mean you understand what context that pattern's in. It just means you know how to play a pattern, and that's fine, right? But when you're improvising, you want to understand what context the pattern is in terms of the key signature, what mode you're playing in, so you can make good decisions with your right hand, right? You're always going to rely on your ear. Does it sound good? You know, and that's always the first thing. But to preempt or know what's going to sound good in advance, it really helps. Right? So understanding, listening first, then with understanding, it all works together. All right, so we start with a pattern. First thing we're going to know, right? Let's have a look. It's always good when we start with patterns to start on the C as your root, right? And then just have a look where the pattern takes us, right? So let's have a look in this case. So it's 1, 3, 5. Well, that's just a C major chord there, right? So right, we're starting on C, right? And then we've got a 6. So far we're in the key of C, right? All the white notes. And then we come up here to the -7 and then the 1. Now the -7, right, is out of key. We know that because the key of C's got all the white notes. So it's got a B flat. So because you're starting to learn all your key signatures and you know that you know the order of all the flats, right, and all the sharps going around the circle of fifths. You know that B flat, the key of F has B flat in it. It only has one flat. So by looking at this pattern now and starting on C, right, I can say straight away that, hey, every note I've just played is in the key of F, right? There's the key of F, right? So Okay, so now you've got that information, all right? So we've got a boogie woogie pattern. So this is where we started. We started with 1, 3, 5, 6, minus 7. We started playing it on the C, right? We just used our C as our first note, right? Because we're going to hope that we're in the key of C. If the pattern's more complex and it goes up in the black notes, well, it could be better seen as another key, right? But in this case, it's only come out with one black note, which is easier for us, and it's in the key of F, right? If I start on C, we're actually in the key of F. Then you've got to ask then, okay, if we're in the key of F, what mode am I starting on if I start on C? Well, let's just count it. We start on F and play the F, right? Well, straight away, from the fifth rule, and if that's F, I know that the C is the fifth, and I know a fifth is a mixolydian. So this is mixolydian. So the first bit of context with this, we can put it straight away into a mixolydian, right, in the key of F, right? From just looking at that number and starting on C, we've got two bits of information now, right? It's got a mixolydian. That's one bit of it. Key of F is the first bit of information we found, wasn't it? And then we found what mode, because we're starting on the note C, is it in, and it's a mixolydian. So we know, right, that the pattern is a mixolydian, right? Well, it is. It's not just a mixolydian. Let's have a look what a mixolydian is now, all right? So what's a mixolydian? If I'm in key of F, the mixolydian we said was C. Well, let's go back to C again, right? Just to give you an understanding of what the mixolydian is, right? Because it's not a 1, 3, 5, 6 minus 7. A mixolydian is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minus 7. So it's close. It's got two more intervals, a 2 and a 4, right? So if we look at the key of C again, right, and we go up to a mixolydian, which is that starts on G this time, right? Because that's a fifth starting on C. And a mixolydian just plays all the white notes, right? Because we're in the mixolydian in the key of C, so it's a 1, 2, 3, right? 4, 5, 6, minus 7 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 7 and 1. So the boogie woogie pattern is a mixolydian with the removal of the 2 and the 4th interval, all right? So we have it down here. I'll bring it up right there. So that's a start. So that's the information we need, right? And now we can take, because we know it's a mixolydian with a removed 2 and 4, we can apply that to any note we want, right? And so we've got 12 notes in an octave we can apply that to, right? So, but we're not going to do it to 12. We're just going to do it to 3 notes, right? And so what we're going to do is with that pattern, it's a mixolydian, we're going to have a look at the circle of fifths. We're going to apply it to, right, we're going to be in keys B flat, F and C, which we're going to apply it to the chords F, C and G, right? So let's see how that's done. So let's have a look at what this does. With a modal pattern definition, what we do with these, okay, we can use this one formula to create finger placement exercises. All right, so what's this saying? Let's go through every one of these elements here. The first element is pi, so it just means pattern. We could also have a little tiny number in that. It could be pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. LH is your left hand, and the pattern's equal to all this. Now, the first element here is called a rising stack. We apply this pattern to every fifth. So we're basically going around the circle of fifths. I'll bring this down here. And we're going to start in the key of B flat, and we're going to start on the F, the root F. Because we know F Mixolydian is in the key of B flat, right? So we need a starting point. Now we don't have to start on F, B flat. We've got 12 notes to choose from. So we could start anywhere, right? But we've chosen to start here, okay, because we want to keep most of the white notes. We don't want to go too many black notes here. So we're going to start here, and then we're going to extract. We're going to apply this. So if we say we're starting on F, right, in key of B flat, right? So we're first in the key of B flat, we're here. Then, which has B flat and E flat in, right? So the key of B, this is the key of B flat, right? The Mixolydian, remember the fifth rule? When you do this with a B flat, right? Mixolydian's on the F, okay? So if you remember, if we're going to play a Mixolydian in the key of B flat, right? And we're on F, we're going to play B flat and E flat. Right? But it's a Mixolydian with a removed 2 and a 4. So if we're on F, we're removing the 4. We're not playing that one, we're not playing the 2. And we're only playing that -7, right? I'll do it on my left hand because I can free up the right with the mouse. Right? So we're not playing B flat, it's not even in it, right? Because it's been removed. Okay? The fourth there. Removed B flat. Now what we do is, so we can extract the first one. So this now, do we go through everything? So this chord, F Mixolydian, or just Mixolydian is the mode, right? Is a mode. We know all our modes because we know our scales. Our Ionian scale on all the modes, on all the keys. If we know all the keys on the Ionian, we know every single mode through the way you visualize, through visualization. All right, so R2 and R4, they're called operations. So Mixolydian R2, R4 is called a pure modal scale. It's key independent. As soon as we put a chord in front of it, it now has created, it's defined inside a key signature. So F Mixolydian is now in the key of B flat. So B flat at the end here is just extra information. You know it's in B flat just from saying F Mixolydian. And we know F, it's a major chord too because it's a Mixolydian. So it's the default chord associated with the mode, right? It's different, it's a chord, but it's the chord, right? The default chord, the 1, 3, 5, 7 is our default chords associated with that mode, F. And the operations is to remove 2 and remove 4, and that's the Boogie Woogie line. Right? That's the Boogie Woogie itself. It's just Mixolydian R2, R4, and we just apply it to different chords. And the chords we're applying it to is going to be F, C, G, and it's going to cross 3 keys, B flat, F, and C. And it's good to know that because that's now we can improvise. We know how to improvise. So the first one, the up and down here is the same as going up and down. This -7 is the top limit you go to. So you're starting on F, you're knowing you're in the key of B flat, right? These are the finger placements, which correspond to the same here. But they only apply for the first in the stack, because when you go to a different key, sometimes you have to change your fingers a bit. But in this particular case, all the fingers actually stayed the same, which is nice. So that's the top limit. So it's saying that Mixolydian remove 2, starting on F, index, and there's pinky, middle, index, thumb, and then index again. And then we just roll back. That's what that says, roll back. And that we're stopping at the top 7. There's the -7. That's our interval. So that's an interval. It's the highest interval we go to in the pattern. Because we know it's Mixolydian, this could be say -3. That means we're just going to, or 3. That means we're just going to stop there, right? And then this wouldn't mean anything. Remove 4 wouldn't mean anything because we wouldn't even need it anymore because we have a limit. All right. So we've done that. Now the next thing to do to extract the next one, right? We just go around circle fifths. So we're on B flat. So the keys go this way, and also the chords will start on F, C, and G because they're a fifth up, right? It's around a fifth interval. we can actually apply this around any interval. It doesn't have to be a fifth, but they can get a bit more complex. But we're doing it around the fifth. So we've got it to a, we're going to move it over, right? So there's our F. There's our fifth roll. So now we have C mixolydian, right? It's going to be C mixolydian will be the next one. So C mixolydian, right, is in what key is that going to be? Well, it's going to be in F, because remember the fifth rule? If I start on F as my key and I just apply the fifth rule, I'm bang on C, the mixolydian, right? So I know that C is a mixolydian in the key of F. So C here, mixolydian in the key of F. And all we have to do is to do the next one is we're now on F, on C, right? Right? We just do another one, which takes us to G, right? Fifth draw. So now G, right, happens to be the mixolydian in C. So there's no black notes. We're back in the key of C, but we're starting on G. There's G, and remove 2, right? I'll do it with the left hand. Remove 2 and remove 4. There's the mixolydian, going right to the 1 in this case. We're going right back to the 1. I'll just go to the 7, and I'll remove 2 and 4. Yeah? So you can see how we got that. We got it from a mixolydian, right? And we've described it in terms of a mixolydian. And it was the easiest way to describe it, because you can describe that 1, 3, you can describe the 1, 3, 5, 6, minus 7. You can describe that pattern in all 7 modes. It doesn't have to be mixolydian. But if it's described in different modes, we're getting a little complex, but if it's described in different modes, it's going to have a different operation, right? All that information's in my book on how that all works. But this is the easiest to describe it in. Mixolydian R2, R4, right? Because there's only, you want to describe it where there's less operations. All right, so now we've used this modal pattern definition, right? So this is more than an introduction to it. It's pretty much explained what it is. This is not, but it's a complex idea, but it is a very powerful idea, because from it you can create now multiple exercises. Gives you a thorough understanding of a pattern now in context of not only just one key, that pattern now applied to multiple keys, signatures, all 12 of them in actual fact. You could keep on going and extract all 12 of these, one for every note, just going around the circle fifths, right? But we only do it over, we've seen the exercise already. Now, the other thing to note is once you've extracted this, you have this information. Now you can apply it any way you want. You don't have to play it in this order, right? Or you've just extracted the actual, right, of the actual the chords, the information, right? And now we're playing it in the order of C coming first, then F, then G, then F, right? So we just changed up the order, right? But you can change up. You don't have to play it in that order. You can play it in another order, right? But that order's it's very very familiar order, because if you're just thinking in terms of say the C, it's a 1. So it's a where are we? So it's the 1, right? That's a 4. If you're not thinking of other key signatures, right, and you're just thinking, okay, we're just in the Ionian, or just in the key of C, but we've altered, we've come out of key with just the one note there and the note over here, right? If you're thinking like that, right, that's fine. That's just another way to think, but it's less powerful, because this way you've got more key signatures that you can muck around with, right? But it's a 1, 4, 5 pattern, right? So if you were just in the key of C, it's a 1, 4, 5. So they've just put it in that order because it has a very familiar sound. We're pretty much in the key of C, because we're close. We're not. Well, I mean, when we're in the key of B flat, we're because we don't have a 4, we remove the 4 in the key of B flat. Key of F, we remove the 4. So we've only got one flat note, right? So it's all hanging around the black notes, the white notes, right? Anyway, so I hope that sort of, I know that's probably, if you've seen this for the first time, it could go over your head. Like I see it and it confuses me again. You know, I have to re-look at it and think about it. But so it is this is new information, right? In the world, it's new information. I find it useful, and I hope other people can find it useful. And it's useful to help you with, the main use for it is compositions and improvisation, and give you a lot of context about a pattern. You can always just have a pattern and just apply it, right? And just learn it and learn to play it, like a lot of musicians do. There's some patterns, they want to play them. But to have understanding, so the whole concept of the Akousunesis method is our ears come first, and then we try to match some understanding to what we're hearing, which helps us predict different ways to play. It always still comes back to the ear, you know, does it sound good? But you see like when a lot of jazz musicians are playing, a lot of the times they're playing a lot of notes, you know, it just becomes too messy. And they're playing so many notes, and because, you know, it's how well you understand your theory, you know. A lot of them, of course, they understand a lot of theory, you know. They're some excellent jazz musicians. But this is sort of this is something, I don't know if they go this far, right? Because I've never seen this before, and it's hard to think. Like it even confuses me, and I designed the bloody thing, so it confuses me sometimes, and I have to think twice about it, you know. But I've done my best to describe it in my book, and how to apply it. And I'm sure once more people get onto this, that they're going to use it for and create a lot of interesting stuff. But you know, anyway, I'll create probably another lesson, maybe on my lesson videos on this again, and we'll take it further, and we'll have different examples. So I'm just giving you one example here, just one pattern, but we'll take it further. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I did press record, thank God. And I'll see you in the next whatever video I do next. I've got 5 different topics now that I can pick and choose. So, which is good because it makes it a bit more interesting for me. I don't have to, you know, whatever I feel like, you know, I want to do a song composition, I'll do that. If I want to do an exercise, I'll do that. At John Thomas, I'll do that. So I can pick and choose. All right, I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.